Well, in 2012, this council commissioned a report from the SAGE Policy Group, which is a economic consulting firm. Anirban Basu runs it. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I believe they're out of Salisbury State, maybe, or Salisbury University. It could be University of Maryland. And they published this report a year ago. I mean, it came out in May of 2013. Over 80 pages. And they did a complete analysis of all the different kinds of industries we have and all of this. And they came up with 13 recommendations, the majority for the county, some for the incorporated towns, and what kinds of things they could do. A couple of things jumped out at me. One was we have a personal property tax relief program, if you will, for businesses that want to move here, and if they create, I think it's like 50 jobs and a couple of million in economic activity, they get a, I wouldn't call it a tax rebate, but postponement, if you will, of paying real estate taxes. Could be up to 10 years. Well, no one's used it because the benchmarks are too high. 50 employees. When SAGE did this report, all of our business are small. Micro, which is like 0 to 5 people, small business, which is up to 20 people. That's where over 70% of our businesses fall. So it's ratcheting down that property tax abatement program for those, to attract them, to bring those businesses in. I think part of it is that. Another part is making, I think, for the county, if they have a for-profit or profit business coming in, and this company wants to do a major overhaul of an existing building, for instance, Eastern Shore Land Conservancy had that project, has that project, went to the county, asked for support. After the town gave $50,000 to this project, the state of Maryland, $1 million to this renovation project, the county gave them 0. Bringing 50 jobs down from Queen Anne County, rehabbing a historic building in the middle of downtown Easton. This is going to be a conservation center for the Midshore, which totally falls in line with what we're about, and got no support from the county at all. 0. I was told by several council members they felt that if they give money to a not-for-profit in any form, that this will open the floodgates and everybody will come in asking for support. I agree. It's not appropriate to give operation support, not your operations budget. I totally agree with that. But when you have an opportunity to provide support for a business, but it happens to be nonprofit, you look at your bottom line and see what you have available and see what's doable, let's say over the next 5 years, that you could apportion $50,000, $100,000 a year over 5 years as a vote of confidence and as a means of bringing economic activity to the town. I mean, well, I don't want to generalize because that's always dangerous. Yes. People get upset. So that's not me. What are you talking about? I have noticed among the the Republican candidates that they really feel less government is better government. That there's always an opportunity, like Josh Horner said at the last forum, to lower the property tax, lower the income tax. I don't know how you do that in Talbot County. We already have a very stringent, restrictive tax cap. We can only increase property taxes, revenues, not rates, total revenues by 2% a year in this county. It is the lowest by far in the state of Maryland. And this poor school system's been struggling along for the last 6-7 years on maintenance of effort, which is getting the same amount of money they got last year, unless there's a small potential increase for if they have additional students. And
Remind me, did Talbot fulfill their obligations, or did you ask for a waiver?
For this year, for 2014? For 2014, they provided maintenance of effort. In the proposed 2015 budget, they're meeting maintenance of effort plus $184,000 which is a 0.5% increase, which to me is a very tough sell in that the school system still has to pay salaries, it still has to pay fuel costs and supplies costs, all those things that are subject to inflationary pressures. They're still dealing with a 0.5% increase. I think that's pretty tough to do, and there will be, and I know the superintendent is looking at cuts, and they're going to be painful. People want parents. I've heard them at the public hearing for the school system. They want a gifted and talented program. That was in the budget for 3 teachers to provide that. That's probably not going to happen. There are other things that aren't going to happen because they're so bare bones. Maintenance of effort. I can see why the state would want to do that, because the state of Maryland gives Talbot County over $10 million a year. And those dollars do either stay the same or go up slightly every year. So I worked for the school system for 22 years. I know that budget very, very well. I know what contributions the state makes, what contributions the federal government makes, and what contributions the local government makes. So I can understand the state wanting to say, look, we're contributing X amount of dollars, same amount every year, sometimes more. We feel the county should match that. They should fulfill their obligation. The state of Maryland has a formula they use to measure educational effort. Are you familiar with that? The total amount of county wealth divided by the local county portion of the Board of Education budget. And they come out with I could call it a percentage, but it's a decimal figure. Talbot County is the lowest in the state by far. Based on our wealth, it's the lowest at 0.77. Caroline County is like 0.88. I mean, they're a very poor county. They have no industry. They have no commercial base. And they put more of their resources toward their public schools than we do. So, no, I'm fine with maintenance of effort. When the economy is doing well in Talbot County, as it was from the late 90s through the late 2000s, the tax revenues are adequate to fund the school system as it needs to be funded and to provide the services we need to provide. So, we're in good shape. The problem is the economy is doing so poorly here. And we're recovering much more slowly than the rest of the state. The rate of job loss was greater in Talbot County, and the recovery is a lot slower. So, in my view, that's what the council ought to be really focused on. That I think I have not heard them talk as significantly about the need for job growth and business support as I think I have, and what the county's role in that might be. I've not heard them talk about that. I haven't heard them talk at all about these recommendations from the SAGE policy group and how they might be implemented. And everything I read there and the examples I gave you earlier are all very doable. Some no cost, some low cost. I think I have stronger support for adequate funding for the public schools than I've heard them discuss to date. I am not in favor of a tax decrease at all. I think we're fine. I think we just need to get our economy going, which sounds very Republican, doesn't it? Grow the economy and, everything will take. And the other issue that's of great concern to me is the drug abuse, drug use problem in the county, and that is very significant. That is huge. I've been chairman of a Blue Ribbon Oversight Committee for the last 4 or 5 years. It's an outgrowth of this Blue Ribbon Commission the county put together. Actually, I was still on the council when we put that together to examine the alcohol and drug problem because our adolescent use rates were so high. And they came forth through a report, a number of recommendations, strategies that this oversight committee was put in place, appointed by the county council, to monitor implementation of those strategies. And we've been doing that. I feel the county council has been slow to implement some of the things we've asked them to do, or suggested they do. Again, we have no statutory authority whatsoever. We're strictly advisory. I also think I'm a strong proponent of public schools. Both my children went all through public school, graduated from Easton High School, got great college educations, doing very well. We do a terrific job. But schools need adequate support from parents, as well as financial support, from their government and their business community. So I'm a real strong proponent of that. Strong proponent of public health. There's a role for public health in the community. For the sheriff's department, we provide services to people, and they should be the best. And I think one area that the county has really fallen down on in the last 4 years has been in the permitting and inspection office of planning and zoning. And Mr. Bartlett brought this up in the forum. When you only have 18 building permits outside in the county, 18 in the last year, where in the early 2000s you were dealing with a couple of hundred, and the construction and building folks are complaining like crazy that it takes forever to get a building permit and it costs too much, that's a big problem. Prior to 2006, the county council met every week going back decades. And for whatever reason decided, Mount, we can get this all done in 2 meetings a week. 2 meetings a month. And I'm wondering if part of the problem, the breakdown, has been we're not there enough, we don't have hands-on, we don't devoting enough time to this job. Now, Corey Pack, in proposing the salary increase to $16,000 a year, one of the rationales was there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of reading, there's a lot to this job, and council members should be paid for their time. I'm for that. I agree. You need to be meeting weekly. I thought, what better way to spend your life than trying to help people live a better life? And government, which is a good vehicle to do that, because it serves so many people at once. And it's a common vehicle to do that, brings people together. So I think, that's my interest. And I was involved in healthcare early on, in the private sector, and then when I moved to the shore, became involved in public education. So that was sort of the beginning of my public life, and then it just sort of led into this seeing a need, seeing something I didn't like the way it was working, and thinking, we can change that, this can be better.